What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's a early Wednesday morning. I just cut my hair and trimmed my beard a little bit, so I had to jump in the shower, so I'm a little bit overheated and I need a cigarette. But in the meantime, enjoy Mrs. Khaleesi. She's a good kitty. And I mean, she might disappear here in a minute, but you never know. And she does seem to like the seat, so I'll be right back. See how the hat fits with the. Oh yeah, no, it still fits nice and snug. All right, I'll be right back. And everybody say hi to Mr. Gnome too. Yeah, I don't know if you can see him at the moment, but yeah, he's okay. Yeah, he can't catch it. I'll be back. My coffee, because you know I need my coffee. So, if anybody is wondering, there is Sir Gnome right there. Say hi, buddy. Oh, wait. Yeah, he's a good boy. Alright, so yeah, clean dome. So I've got a Pacific Gyre here on the back. Looks like a hurricane with a gigantic eye. Yeah. When I still had hair, it was what you would call a cowlick, but now it's just a bald spot. But it does feel really, really good. Really big shoe. Really, really good. To get it nice and clean. It's not as close as, in a few spots it's not as close as I want to, but in other spots it is. I need one of those skull shaver type things. But still trying to convince myself to spend that much money on a fucking skull shaver. Yeah. So anyway, how is everybody today? Hope you've had a good weekend. Hope the beginning to your week has been good. Mine has. I got some things accomplished today. Working towards getting my license back. Not for any law reasons. Just I've not needed one for a long time. You know, I haven't driven for a while, and it's not it hasn't been a real issue until now, and you know, now that it is, I'm taking care of it. It's been so long that my license wasn't even in the system anymore, so I had to do the whole test over again, and that was a pain in the ass. But I passed. Only missed 3 questions on the back end. So, hurrah, success. I need to comb my beard. But it's still a little damp. And did some adulting. Ordered light bulbs and cat food for the kitties. Because I'm the most responsible one down here. And I don't mind. I love the kitties. Much better. Yeah. You'd be surprised how. I mean, it doesn't take a whole lot of work to keep this thing from being a bird's nest, but it does take some effort. I don't exactly know what people with long, luxurious hair do to maintain such luscious locks, but if it's anything like this, good God. Dangles and split ends and motherfucking, like, oh yeah, and when I smoke, I gotta worry about not fucking, like, burning fucking whiskers and shit. But it's worth it. Yeah. All right. So, I have a couple of things tonight. Maybe I'll do that one another night. Which one is that one on? Okay. All right. So I have 2 items that I would like to look at tonight. One we found last night on, well, I did some experimentation, and apparently I'm allowed to stream on YouTube, at least now, I guess. I don't know. I thought I wasn't allowed to go live on YouTube until I had a certain amount of qualifications or some shit like that. But I apparently was. I went live last night for a couple hours, and I stumbled across Forlorn Foundry, which is a they do SCP shorts. For the various items, entities, and ideas of which are contained by the SCP Foundation. And I say those 3 descriptive terms deliberately because there are tons of entries that fall under all those terms and so much more. So, let's take a look. So the one of the most famous ones. We'll start with SCP-173, and let's actually bring that one over here. Put that down there, and let's see. Maybe we can pop this out for now. There we go. All right. In the TV room, and we need. Nope, not that one. That's my. This is fine. This is the SCP Foundation wiki, and it is so massive, it's unbelievable. So, you go ahead and just turn that back on. There we go. So it is. Let's see. It's actually got 8 different series now, from the original. I think there are over 1,000 entries in the. Yeah, it looks like it. Yeah, there are almost 1,000 entries in each in just the first series alone, and I would assume, yeah, yeah. See, and they're all kitted out with their own stories, every single one of them, and a lot of them are simply fantastic reading. You could spend weeks in this wiki, or you could go to the various sites that do content on YouTube. We've featured one or two. One at least comes to mind. That's Eastside SCP with Eastside Steve. He is absolutely wonderful. He's one of my favorite content creators, and one of my favorite specific content creators for SCP. He got a massive library. Still overheated from the shower. So when we do things like this, because I feel like I'm gonna cover a bit of Forlorn Foundry stuff. Yeah, there's one called Critical Tomatoes. That's actually really good. There's one about the Great Serpent Anantashasha. That's a really good one too. There's one that's a vending machine that spits out stuff from across the multiverse. It's a really good one too. But for now, let's check out. Okay. And let's get this one up, and this needs to go to this one, east. And I need 173. Okay. So, I'm actually just gonna, we're gonna, yeah. Let's see, where are we at in this? So, item number SCP-173, object class, Euclid. Excuse me for a second, I need to clean my glasses. Special containment procedures. Item SCP-173 is to be kept in a locked container at all times. When personnel must enter SCP-173's container, no fewer than 3 may enter at any time, and the door is to be relocked behind them. At all times, 2 persons must maintain direct eye contact with SCP-173 until all personnel have vacated and relocked the container. Description: moved to Site 1993. Origin is as of yet unknown. It is constructed from concrete and rebar with traces of Krylon brand spray paint. SCP-173 is inanimate and extremely hostile. The object cannot move while within direct line of sight, which means while we're looking at it, it can't do anything. It's like the angels from Doctor Who. Line of sight must not be broken at any time with SCP-173. Personnel assigned to enter container are instructed to alert one another before blinking. This feels a little bit different from the original entry. Object is reported to attack by snapping the neck at the base of the skull or by strangulation. I think if not almost always it goes for the snapping of the neck. In the event of an attack, personnel are to observe Class 4 hazardous object containment procedures. Personnel report sounds of scraping stone originating from within the container when no one is present inside. This is considered normal, and any change in this behavior should be reported to the acting HMCL supervisor on duty. The reddish-brown substance on the floor is a combination of feces and blood. Origin of these materials is unknown. The enclosure must be cleaned on a bi-weekly basis. Oh, so it gets pretty fucking grody in there before somebody actually comes in there and does anything. So that is a brief overview of SCP-173. Let's go ahead and see what Forlorn Foundry has to say about this topic. Let me go ahead and... Yeah, that's handy. I love that.
3, please. I would totally pay to see it done.
Hello, yes. I have over 173 happy customers. Many fine product at Dado store. What you desire?
I don't know what you're on about. I just want FF to make a video with the peanut boy.
Ah, of desiring a child? Dado is man of enterprise, not one to judge. Now, how Peanut is involved?
Child? What the hell? No, it's this freaky thing that cracks necks when you aren't staring at it. You really haven't heard of it.
Dado hear many things, using a patented ear clean solution. Dado include for low price.
Oh, okay. You're just insane.
Insane? How can be? Dado successful chemist, produce product to the enjoy of many. Now, you living at zip code. Yes?
What the fuck? Don't post my name and address online.
Online? No. Dado store have of no line. Ship direct to customer home to high satisfaction.
Report it.
Y'all know what time it is. Oh my. Dinga donga. should have focused on whatever that little object was. Ah! I mean, technically, that's what he asked for.
Thanks, little guy.
Hey, this is Jake of Forlorn Foundry. If you enjoyed the video and would like to support our channel, please check out our Patreon. By becoming a patron,
Not what I expected.
in the credits, watch our videos a day early, and even be a part of the creative process. All of your contributions go towards making better videos more frequently.
Sure. Okay. All right. Not what I was expecting. All right. Let's. Man. Okay. Let's do this one. This seems as. Okay. So we need to go to 3. Thousand eat. Okay, so okay, so I'll read a little bit of this entry. This is much longer. Item number SCP-3008. Excuse me. No, why did it not do that? It doesn't want to. There we go. That'll work. All right. Object class Euclid. Special containment procedures. The retail park containing SCP-3008 has been purchased by the Foundation and converted into Site Blank. All public roads leading to or passing by Site Blank have been redirected. Excuse me. The entrance to SCP-3008 is to be monitored at all times, and no one is to enter SCP-3008 outside of testing, as permitted by the senior researcher. Humans exiting SCP-3008 are to be detained and then debriefed prior to the administration of amnestics. They make you forget things. Dependent upon the duration of their stay in SCP-3008, a cover story may need to be generated prior to their release. Any other entities exiting SCP-3008 are to be terminated. Hell yeah, with extreme prejudice. Ooh, yeah. Description: SCP-3008 is a large retail unit previously owned by and branded as IKEA, a popular furniture retail chain. A person entering SCP-3008 through the main entrance and then passing out of sight of the doors will find themselves translocated to SCP-3008-1. This displacement will typically go unnoticed, as no change will occur from the perspective of the victim. They will generally not become aware until they try to return to the entrance. And then it's way too late. SCP-3008-1 is a space resembling the inside of an IKEA furniture store, extending far beyond the limits of what could possibly be contained physically within the dimensions of the retail unit. Current measurements indicate an area of at least 10 kilometers squared, with no visible external terminators detected in any direction. Inconclusive results from the use of laser rangefinders has led to the speculation that the space may be infinite. SCP-3008-1 is inhabited by an unknown number of civilians trapped within prior to containment. Gathered data suggests that they have formed a rather rudimentary civilization within SCP-3008-1, including construction of settlements and fortifications for the purpose of defending against SCP-3008-2. SCP-3008-2 are humanoid entities that exist within SCP-3008-1. While superficially resembling humans, they possess exaggerated and inconsistent bodily proportions, often described as being too short or too tall. They possess no facial features and, in all observed cases, wear a bright yellow shirt and blue trousers consistent with the IKEA employee uniform. That's right, baby. You gotta stick to regulations. SCP-3008-1 does have a rudimentary day-night cycle, determined by the overhead lighting within the space activating and deactivating at times consistent with the opening and closing times of the original retail store. During the night, instances of SCP-3008-2 will become violent towards all other life forms within SCP-3008. Enjoy your stay. During these bouts of violence, they have been heard to vocalize phrases in English that are typically variations of, "The store is now closed. Please exit the building." Once day begins, SCP-3008-2 instances immediately become passive and begin moving throughout SCP-3008-1 seemingly at random. They are unresponsive to questioning or other verbal cues in this state, though they will react violently if attacked. SCP-3008-1 is known to have one or more exits located within, though these exits do not appear to have a fixed position, making it difficult to leave SCP-3008 once inside. Using any other door besides the main entrance to enter the structure or breaking through the walls of the retail unit sadly leads into the non-anomalous interior of the original store. Since containment began, 14 individuals have managed to exit SCP-3008. Following extensive debriefing of all individuals have been administered amnestics and released. Incident 3008-1. At 0037 on blank blank 2000 and blank, a human male exited SCP-3008 followed 10 seconds later by an instance of SCP-3008-2. Said SCP-3008-2 caught and killed the man before itself being terminated by armed response personnel. Sad. This incident represents the only time an instance of SCP-3008-2 has been seen exiting SCP-3008. A full autopsy on the corpse was performed. See 3008-2 autopsy log for more details. Coincidentally, the man was carrying an IKEA branded journal seeming to document his time in SCP-3008-1. Transcribed below verbatim. I'm not going to do that. I'm just here to give you the rough rundown. There are a lot of things. There's so many entries, but it is really good. Check it out yourself. But now we get to check out the accompanying animation. This is what it actually looks like, and it's fucking terrifying. Oh. Well, there's the night. Oh, there's the night side. Oh, oh my. Ah! Yeah. Mm-hmm. Run, motherfucker. Oh, shit. You ran. Oh, oh, shit. Oh. Coincidentally, if you do manage to find the food court or wherever they serve food and drink in the IKEA, the Infinite IKEA, there's always fresh Swedish meatballs, which is really fucking creepy and curious. Like, let's trap all of these motherfuckers in this IKEA and really try not to let them ever get out. But free Swedish meatballs. All right. Yeah, yeah. Just a little tidbit. Ah! Ah! Run, motherfucker, run! Oh. The back room. Yeah, I like that one. That was pretty cool. All right. So, let's find a really fucking weird one. That one is kind of cool, but this one, yeah. The Flesh That Hates is an entry that stretches quite a ways across the narrative lore in the SCP Foundation. Like it's just okay. So there are different factions within the world of the SCP Foundation. One of them is a culture slash religion slash philosophy slash alchemical alchemical esoteric magical art slash mutation slash like biological control down to the molecule type stuff. Like, I mean, it gets in detail, man. There's a lot there. But The Flesh That Hates is a particular organism slash weapon slash colonizing force slash virus. It's a virus, and once you're infected, that's pretty much it. You're going to eventually turn into a rabid wild monster, or you're going to become a lump of living flesh that's not really in control of yourself anymore. But it is fatal. Um, there's a lot here. This one, see, this one's 610. This was back in the original. Is it? Yeah. Okay. There's too much here to read out to you, and I don't feel like doing it right now. But this picture right here, oh shit, you can't see that. Um, yeah, this picture right here. Um, that's that sort of like okay. So the caption reads: SCP-610 infected individuals and a converted environment. Visible are an animate infected, an inanimate infected, a non-human infected, and several unknown infected. Um, yeah, it just turns you into blobbering flesh that wants to consume whatever's around it. But you're still alive, but you're connected to like a hive mind kind of thing. Let's see what the video says. Um, why isn't it doing that? Why isn't it? What is going on? Why will it not change? Ah ha ha! No? Yes. Okay.
We have merch. Me and these peeps made a SCP merch store that focuses on high quality products. We're also giving away this cute guy, so sign up on scpstore.org
Nice.
before the giveaway ends on November 30th. Also, I'm doing gift card giveaways.
Hope
on our
everybody
Discord
has
that end
coffee,
January 1st, so join
snacks,
before it ends. Links
and
are in the comments below.
preferred smoking implements. Yeah. So this is pretty much it. This is what you become. Um, and those are the foot soldier types. The ones. Um, oh yeah. Oh, so this is Blender. Okay. Oh yeah. That was very nice. Okay.
The broken.
Nope.
We have merch. Me.
All right. So we get the idea on that. We'll do some more in the next one. I just wanted to give you a taste of what's on Forlorn Foundry. There's a lot here, a lot. So like, go check it out. Definitely go check out Critical Tomatoes. That shit's funny. Next, we shall look at some cyberpunk lore on Johnny Silverhand. Laid Back Gamers has brought up some very, very decent theories and evidence for Johnny still being alive, like for real being alive, like not just an engram, but like either was on ice, is on ice, or something. But there's some probability that he ain't dead. And this is the immortality of Johnny Silverhand. So let's check it out and see what he has to say.
Vast series created by Mike Pondsmith, Johnny Silverhand was always destined to accomplish a singular feat: immortality. The idea of immortality itself is heavily ingrained within the character and arc of Johnny Silverhand. Now, whether this is a blessing or a curse is entirely decided by your perspective. Even your choices throughout 2077 can decide the value in Silverhand's engram. Silverhand clearly didn't always make the best of choices as he went through his first attempt at what you could call life. He betrayed the trust of many of those who were closest to him, brought others into harm's way, and eventually allowed his inflated ego to pull him into the iron sights of Adam Smasher, believing he had even a semblance of a chance at fighting him. Though of course, we all know how that ended, with his body split in two, and a shocked face as he dropped to the floor, only to be awoken years down the line in a sleepy V's head. Despite immediately threatening to take V's body and posing as a threat,
"Who you work for? Start talking." "Fuck." "Fuck." "Fucking chip. Ripped the thing out myself." "No, wait!"
there isn't much blame you can place on a Silverhand. He's been within what could only be described as hell for 50 years, and has for the first time seen the world again, albeit through a different perspective and time period. Though the relationship between V and Silverhand in the beginning can only at the bare minimum be described as rocky, he quickly comes to terms with the situation. He knows this is a chance to have another shot at life. Though his original perspective on the situation was of personal greed, his character grew far beyond that. He learns that the legitimate right path to take was one that didn't give him a second chance at living out his life, but rather a second chance at giving someone else a proper life. He wants to save V in whatever way is possible. His character arc completes with the involvement of V, who will clearly argue against you giving him his body, especially when your friendship with him was built over the game and at his alleged grave.
What I told you with the Pista Sophia, we stick to that. I'll go. You stay.
Turning your back on the problem again? What? Little guilt creeps in and that's that? You give up?
Stop. Just stop.
Gonna just roll over instead of fighting for what's yours? Decommiss yourself because you're too fucking scared to say goodbye?
It's my decision. Let me make it.
You're loyal, grant you that. But damn it, are you tense? Haven't changed a bit since we met.
I'm sorry. Johnny. I just want to start anew, even if I don't know what that means. I bet it'd be good for you too.
V, I'm just scared for you.
Though the ending can take us many different paths, there's a select few that properly give Silverhand the completed arc he deserved, many in which he maintains his theme of immortality no matter the result, seeing as he can either live on within V's body, leaving Night City and aiming to be a much better man than he could have ever envisioned for himself in his original life, or live through the net, unfortunately though, as a portion of a large conglomerate of AI. It is only through the devil ending that Silverhand's engram is likely destroyed, to never be recovered again, seeing as V allows of all corporations Arasaka to mess around within his head and remove the terminally spreading relic of Silverhand. Unless, of course, there is a digital copy of said engram, then this destruction of it would not be nearly as prevalent, at least to the overall image of Silverhand. Despite what many will say, this was always a part of his entire character arc. Silverhand was never meant to remain dead after the 2023 raid, the same way Alt had always been meant to escape the Arasaka mainframe after 2013. There is even a misconception that originally there would be a decision at the start of the game to select who you had in your head as an engram. Mike Pondsmith himself officially stated on this topic against it. The original comment stated, "Interesting. Because before they got Keanu, it would have been possible to get Morgan, Johnny, or Saburo in your head. Then they rewrote it to be just Johnny.
Got the
This was
munchies.
early in development." To which Pondsmith responded, "Word of God. Nope. Always was Johnny. I know. I was there." So however the misconception of choosing Saburo or Blackhand as an engram had spread, it was never the case. Pondsmith had always planned for Silverhand to come back. The primary reason we can claim that this was always meant to be a part of Silverhand's character arc and that he was destined for immortality is because there is a source book released that predated even Firestorm Shockwave. This source book was named Cyber Generations, and although it's no longer canon, it bears shocking similarities to the currently released source books in the canon timeline, such as Shockwave and Red. Cyber Generation featured a new setting based for Cyberpunk 2020 and an alternative 2027 where the corporations had won, becoming the new governments, and where players took on the roles of young adults with more heroic motives for fighting against the machine. In terms of tone, Cyber Generation differs from its predecessor somewhat, as the player characters take the part of nanotech-enhanced youngsters in an oppressive world ruled by adults who fear and seek to control them. The special powers of the cyber-evolved children give the game a definite superhero flavor. The players can be many different roles, such as actors, inventors, or motorbike racers, but there can be many more. Within Cyber Generations, the events of Shockwave had never taken place, seeing as the release of the source book was before development of Shockwave and completely contradicts the material of the Fourth Corporate War within, though this doesn't mean Silverhand never died. Starting on page 2 of 7, there's a complete entry dedicated to Johnny Silverhand, codenamed as the Mystic. This entry states that Silverhand is assassinated within the year of 2019, his body yet again being split in half and placed into a Cairo tank. Alt, who had created a second version of herself separate from her net self, sent the second Alt to retrieve Silverhand, creating an engram from his then soul-killed body, and uploading it to a suitable clone body just as she did for herself. It is from this point out that Silverhand becomes immortal. Every time he dies, he is brought back in yet again another grown body to suit his engram. Though every time, he loses hold of himself, bit by bit, becoming detached from who he used to be, within an endless loop. It's this loss of self that happens to be a major theme in the character of Johnny Silverhand. Cyberpunk at its core is a world about self-image and identity. Everyone is aiming to be somebody, whether it be a top-of-the-line fixer with connections in every bit of activity, a solo at the top to be feared, a charismatic rocker boy beginning anti-corpo movements with his music blasting loudly. It's all the same. They're all identities every individual wants to achieve and be known for. Everyone.
So I gotta know, was that a Silverhand clone that was talking in the new Phantom Liberty trailer? Or is that engram in V's head? Which doesn't make sense because nobody can hear what he's saying except for V. And that wasn't V's voice. That the female voice that was in the trailer. That's not V's voice. I don't know.
One and their mother wants to be the next Silverhand or Blackhand. It's almost ironic that Silverhand is the one to be losing himself upon death. Even in 2077, just like Cyber Generations, he's clearly not who he used to be. His memories fall flat and incorrect. He spouts nonsense and says whatever it takes to make himself feel better at every turn. It's only at his grave that he really begins to realize the trail of destruction he leaves behind himself.
Here lies Johnny Silverhand.
The guy who saved my life.
V, you don't know how much I want that to be true. Listen, I realize I fucked up a lot of things. Either let down or used every last person who gave me their trust. Blind, selfish bastard that I was. But I've managed one thing for now. Not to fuck this up. What we have.
No, Johnny, you fucked that up too. You used me. Lied to me. I can't trust you at all.
Is it too late to ask for a second chance?
What do you want from me?
Most people I thought were my friends. They couldn't even stand to be in the same room with me. You're fucking closest to me by a long shot. There, 24/7. And yet, you don't seem to hate my living guts. At least so it seemed. Till now.
Okay. But as second chances go, this is your last. I refuse to be that naive.
I'll try damned hard.
Silverhand, despite this, is the driving identity, motivation, and personality of Cyberpunk 2077's gameplay. And V themselves.
Yeah.
V really doesn't have much of a singular personality or guidance, seeing as the game had to mesh the 3 different life paths into a coherent game. Silverhand is left to pick up the pieces and give that guidance. Overall, Silverhand is doomed to a life of immortality and loss of self. Every opportunity he receives to take a step forward, he loses a part of himself. This was always a part of his character arc, and the vision Pondsmith had. There truly aren't any real happy endings within Cyberpunk. Let me know what you thought about this video down in the comments. I think Silverhand's character planning, arcs, and themes can be some of the most interesting parallels with the Cyberpunk world if you delve into it. I plan on completely covering Cyber Generations and its possible correlations and practical spoilers of the current timeline in another video. So if you're interested in every bit of lore from Cyber Generations we could apply to our current canon timeline, make sure to remain tuned into my channel for an upcoming video on this specific topic. As always, I look forward to seeing what you all have to say and to the future content I get to produce. Have a great day, Chooms.
Cool.
Hey, Choom. Thanks.
Oh yeah, and then there's another guy that I frequently watch, the Exploring series. He's got a lot of really good content too. He does long reads, very long form content. In defense of Taco Bell. Yeah, I saw her too, but damn, that burrito looks fucking good. I eat in the most obese state in America. I mean, should you? I mean, is that something to be? Okay. The last thing before we jump into some gaming for the evening is going to be Zombieland's Prion Disease Explained by Roanoke Gaming. I also watch a lot of this guy's stuff. He's very thorough and methodic about all of his stuff, especially when it comes to diseases and stuff like that. Yeah, he's really good. So I'm gonna go smoke a cigarette real quick. Actually, you know what? I'll get. While we learn about this prion disease, I'm gonna do a dab. I've got something to smoke. We're good. We're good. I'll go later.
Buys me to my core, and by kingdom I mean animal kingdom. You take something like an amoeba, right? There is a disease that exists within our kingdom that is absolutely one that just horrifies me to my core, and by kingdom I mean animal kingdom. You take something like an amoeba, right, which is a parasite that can eat your brain. There is experimental medicines that, could potentially save your life. Let's say you have a virus that rapidly moves through a population. Well, depending on your body's ability to detect and destroy it, along with certain medications to prevent the virus from replicating, you have the ability to fight it. What's that? You got frisky with some girl and you believe the online memes that doing stuff has now introduced your upper digestive tract to the effects of foreign bodies such as E. coli, which for the love of God, that is holy. Why, God? Well, luckily for you, there are now antibiotics that can mitigate the effects of that bacteria, saving your life. Humanity has begun conquering diseases around us, or at least has the idea of how to ease the suffering associated with them.
How you doing, Mr. Shante?
We aren't even close
Have
to
a good day at work.
The pathogen is so horrible, it doesn't exist to reproduce or spread its influence or even to survive. It just simply exists because of quite literally the laws of the universe. It exists simply because of forces observed day to day. We have nothing that can prevent it, treat it, and even ease the decay of those who contract it. I am, of course, talking about prions. And believe me, I don't get to talk about prions all that often, so you better believe we're going to get into some horrific discussion about the pathogenesis of this protein today. But in the meantime, there is a reason that I bring this up. The year is 2009. It was a strange era where everything had to be zombies. Every game had to have some sort of zombies. Tons of zombies. No idea why, if I remember correctly, because I'm an old man, but I think maybe it had something to do with COD zombies coming out, which continued to fuel the fire concerning more zombie paraphernalia coming out, which then resulted in today's topic, Zombieland and Zombieland Double Tap, which arguably, that one was kind of a nightmare to watch. I mean, don't get me wrong, it wasn't bad on its own, but 10 years later, after the craze had already passed, and many subplots that seemingly had no conclusion, as the adolescents...
Yeah, I didn't like Double Tap too much.
But in a not-so-distant past, humanity would be besieged by a disease that has already reared its ugly head before. In fact, the food that humans would eat at fast food joints, this cheap, easy-to-make protein that was very easy to also distribute, and I guess I should use the word food loosely here, these burgers would be infected by this misshapen protein, as the first person to eat it would quickly become infected. However, it wasn't just one person, but because of the amount of people consuming it, the infection would spread far and wide, as people began turning on those they once knew. Seemingly the entire world would be tainted with this infection. But how exactly does this happen, and what concerning neurology and physiology in general does the body struggle with? Well, let's discuss that in today's episode.
See?
Well, first, this episode is sponsored by Factor. Spring is officially upon us. You can tell by all the tornadoes coming through my state currently. Isn't nature wonderful? And because spring is here, you're going to need nutritious and delicious meals for the warmer, more active days ahead. With these ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door, you can check meal prep off of your list. Look, humans are visual creatures, and because of that, we all want to look our best for the coming summer months. I get it, it's vanity, but it's a real thing. With these meals, you can consume calorie-smart choices to keep your caloric intake in check, and considering these meals are always fresh and never frozen, it's also just delicious to do so.
Straight to your door, Alice.
Protein options help you build muscle as well. They have keto, vegetarian, vegan. All of these are available. And I'm not just some dude telling you to order this and not do it myself. In fact, I've been so impressed with Factor that I've been ordering consistently since January and committing to replacing my lunches with them, putting me in the necessary caloric deficit along with exercise. And I've actually dropped like 19 pounds since January 3rd. And if that's not enough to... premium produce such as
Sorry.
broccoli and broccolini that will perfectly complement any protein source that you choose. So if all that sounds good to you, by heading to factor75.com or clicking the link below and using code Roanoke50, you can get 50% off your first Factor box today. All right, let's get back to it. Let's kick off our story with quite possibly the best intro of all time.
Hell yeah.
If you don't love Metallica playing For Whom the Bell Tolls to the slow movement of people being attacked by zombies, then you just have not reached true enlightenment, and I'm sorry, but there's like no saving you. But we have some new information
Amen, brother.
about how the entire country has become zombie-land. There are barely any survivors left with what Columbus thinks. Experiments are done. Columbus also has a list of rules. Number one being cardio, which is probably why it's so fast in the U.S. The next is some advice that everyone knows at this point to double tap, which coincidentally will be the next movie we cover after this, Joy Abound. The aforementioned excellent intro, which some of this will definitely have to be blurred, but moving on. As we head to Garland, Kansas, because I live in Georgia, and most of this thing actually appears to have been filmed here. This is actually LaGrange, Georgia. I know that gas station. Actually, it's in my hometown where I have lived, just down the road when I was a kid. So obviously, I'll have to nerd out about that fact, as I know where everything is. Anywho, Columbus has stopped at the gas and goal. After being attacked by a group and outrunning them because of his cardio ability, he ends up crashing his car after one was actually in his car. He gets out and then double taps it, and you have to ask, where were the other two that were just chasing him? So now we get some backstory. He's going from Austin, Texas to the real apocalypse zone known as Columbus, Ohio. As he walks along, he meets another man who rolls up, who will affectionately be known as Tallahassee. They have a standoff for a moment as Columbus gives the international symbol for hitchhiking. They talk about where they're headed as Tallahassee agrees to take Columbus as far as Texarkana. As they drive along, we will get to
You're
the
a peppy little
soon
spit
enough,
fuck,
but they
ain't
stop to
ya?
check out a hostess truck where they find a bunch of snowballs, which are actually pretty good.
Snowballs.
As they continue,
Snowballs.
Columbus then stops off to take the Browns to the Super Bowl.
It's
to
not
give
the
even more
taste, it's the
backstory.
consistency.
My man here was playing World of Warcraft in its prime.
I hate
In fact, I
coconut.
still need to go back as a paladin and backhand the Lich King sometime soon. But as he was raiding with his bros, his neighbor shows up to ruin raid night. She talks about how a homeless guy attacked her and bit her, which is pretty normal for Austin, Texas, which then spreads the infection, as we will come to find out. He's had the hots for her for a while, so she falls asleep on his couch, but then he wakes up and she begins to attack him. Turning into a massive game of keep away, he manages to elude her before taking her out with a toilet cover, which kicks off the whole escape plan. Here we get actual confirmation, which, having worked with diseases, bro, they botched the explanation here. It was pretty bad. But then again, remember that era when all zombie movies were like, oh yeah, it's a bacterial infection, but it's actually a virus? They did the same thing here. Mad cow became mad human, became mad zombie. It was a fast-acting virus that left you with a swollen brain and a raging fever, as well as a taste for who flesh. Wait, that's the Grinch. Never mind. A taste for human flesh. Mad cow, however, was not a virus, but in fact a prion disease, which is a misshapen protein that your body cannot destroy, but it's way more horrifying than that, which we will get to in the science portion of this episode.
Prion disease are fucking
Also, for everybody still
horrifying,
watching that
man.
may be new to this channel, I do cover summaries, but then the last, second half of the video is always about science. I had somebody who was like, oh, I just thought you were doing, a lame recap, which thanks for that. No, it's a science-based thing. It's just maybe people haven't seen the movie that I've seen, so I cover it for them. Anyways.
Hell yeah.
They spot that really it doesn't
Entertaining
matter where you
and
are,
informative.
The infection is everywhere. They discuss where they are really headed because there is no place that's going to be untouched by this. Heading to Blaine's grocery store, which I'm fairly certain is North Georgia near Blairsville. I'm assuming at this point we are in the first year of the infection process, given how the grocery stores hadn't really been raided completely as of yet. But as they walk through, back. The younger sister has apparently gotten bitten. They hand over the old pellet thrower to Wichita, which then, she's supposed to take out Little Rock, but instead of doing that, they just end up robbing them. I mean, survival is important, so then Tallahassee and Columbus are now walking. Interestingly, Little Rock then talks about how she almost passed for a zombie, which in the movie Maggie, she becomes a zombie. Alright, nerd.
I've got to see Maggie.
It's my hometown, actually right here. This is Noonan Square. It basically looks like this all the time. As they walk through, it's kind of surreal, because if you look in the back, you can see Bank of Coweta in front of the tank. Not the worst bank in the world, but I do have my beefs with them. Stepmother actually used to work for them. Ugh. Tallahassee breaks a minivan as they then head to the surrounding residential area. And I know it doesn't look like much, but that's just Georgia in late fall. Everything kind of is gloomy at that point. Tallahassee then finds a Hummer with a bag of force multipliers in the back, and thanks God for rednecks, which correct. I'm a firm believer in stay strapped or get clapped, and that's exactly what you will find in the surrounding neighborhoods. Tallahassee begins talking about his puppy named Buck. He's just on basically a tour of fun after losing a loved one. But as they continue along and they find a Cadillac from earlier that was stolen, Tallahassee then goes to check it out and finds that it's empty as he signals to Columbus to drive down. As he gets in the Hummer, they've already taken over Columbus for the second time, but this time Wichita and Little Rock take them along, considering, I mean, again, they had already gotten robbed twice, so kind of like a double jeopardy thing. But apparently they also used to take advantage of people who were interested in Wichita, so it's unsurprising that they were able to overcome Columbus and Tallahassee. So, everyone then pulls a force multiplier on one another as Columbus calms them down. Apparently these two are headed west for quite possibly one of the most horrible ideas I've ever heard of. They're heading to a highly populated area with a massive population density to go to a place called Pacific Playland. Wichita basically tells Columbus everyone in this town, or everyone in his town, is already turned into zombies, which sort of bums him out, because that means his family's gone. But later that night, they then find a car for Columbus to, take and then go home, but considering he has nowhere else to go, he decides to just stick with a hot chick and a guy and a youngling who actually know how to fight zombies. Probably some good thinking. Driving through what I can only assume is the South, and actually probably just South Georgia, because the state has like 20 different geologies and climates, they destroy a place for funsies. We also get even more words of wisdom from Tallahassee. Don't worry about the blind spots. Blind spots are for other drivers. So is that how it works? So they finally then make it to California, which is hilarious because if you pay attention, this is the same road they drove down earlier when leaving Noonan, right before meeting up with Wichita and Little Rock. And they thought I wouldn't notice. Too bad they didn't realize I'm an absolute nerd for this stuff. Entering a city, which seems like literally the worst idea I've ever seen in my life, they stop and grab a map, which also seems incredibly risky. Heading to Hollywood Hills, I mean, I guess it is, I have no idea, I've never been there, but then head to a house with BM on the gate. Heading inside, my God, it's Bill Murray's home. As they check it out and then make sure he's not infected, they find a movie theater. But someone else is in the home. As Bill walks in, Wichita hits Billy Boy with a golf club, where then they get some more interesting information. So, makeup helps him blend in with other zombies, which indicates that this is not a scent-based thing, but just a visual thing, which seems like it would make it rather easy to survive this if you could pretend like you're infected. But that'll change in the second movie. Anyhow, they proceed to smoke tobacco leaves. It is tobacco. I will take no more questions, but then they have this awesome idea, because when we're smoking tobacco, to sneak up on heavily armed survivors. Brilliant. So as Bill goes in, Columbus then puts a shot into his sternum, only to realize he's not actually a zombie. So then Bill passes after a really long breath, and they throw him off the balcony and waste a ton of ammo and alert every infected with a 2-mile radius.
I also thought
Later
that was a
night,
fucking
for some
bonehead
reason,
move.
The power of the house is still working, which is surprising. Tallahassee then goes to talk about Buck,
Probably has a
his
generator.
son, as he shows the group that he and his son made, which was a duct tape wallet. God, do you remember those? Anyways, later on, Tallahassee then teaches Little Rock how to properly aim a handheld, as she reacts as the typical pre-adult age would act, kind of just rolling their eyes and breathing out heavily because they're angry about life. Columbus and Wichita then go have some wine together, which then somehow serves as a catalyst for, I need to leave because I'm getting too close. Anyways, Columbus gets angry at Tallahassee for being a giant, fun-blocking robot developed in a lab or something, which his timing was impeccable to ruin Columbus's chances of engaging in the horizontal tango. So, getting to Pacific Playland. Well, this seems like a horrible idea, probably because it is. They head in while Columbus and Tallahassee start discussing parting ways so that Tallahassee can go find a Twinkie. Meanwhile, at Playland, Wichita turns on the power to the place, not only making it fun, but literally turns on everything. Gee, I wonder if that'll alert the Horde. And alert the Horde it does.
Yes,
As they enjoy
the
their
whole
rides, they
Horde.
start jumping over fences. And at this point, Columbus decides to go after Wichita as the siege of the theme park continues. Running back to the car, they bail out of the car. Can't say I would have done the same thing, but all right. So now it turns into a giant game of keep away. Tallahassee tells Columbus that, that'll do, pig, as Columbus immediately crashes his bike, and Tallahassee then realizes that he's probably going to die without him, so he agrees to go help him and then go after the other two. They think, on the ride, they corner themselves on a ride that drops, right? Very good. So as it descends to the Horde below, they're able to take out the control box, which stops it from, letting them get torn apart from the infected below and being stuck in their seats. Arriving on scene, they realize that maybe these two do require their assistance, which sends Tallahassee on a spree. Shouting to Columbus, they call him
One of the highlights of
Ohio
the
for
film,
some
by the
reason.
way.
I think this may have just been a mess up in the movie. I have no idea. But Tallahassee then runs off, drawing the infected. Thus ensues a massive fight scene where one infected, when they go into the scare house, literally gets stuck in the mouth of the hydraulic press of what is essentially a T-Rex, which seems like a massive safety hazard for anyone who is just casually visiting. At this point, Tallahassee then locks himself in a shed and continues taking out the infected, as each individual has to deal with their own infected until Columbus finally comes face to face with his own phobia, a clown. Which, judging by the state of the world today, aren't we all clowns? Anyways, overcoming his fear, he ends up taking it out, which then, Wichita gets all hot and bothered by that and then tells him her real name, which is my ex-girlfriend's name, good luck, bro, which I suppose is just a first name, so her real name is Kristen. Anyways, as he then brushes her hair over her ear, and then they go, like, she says, we gotta go find Florida. Why does she keep calling them by the states? It's not their actual name. Like, this had to have been a mess up. Anyways, Columbus then takes out a Twinkie box, to which Little Rock saved a Twinkie for Tallahassee. Ah, all's well that ends well. Except not really, because now we head into the major downgrade. I know, I'm in as much pain as you about this, and
Oh, you're actually
normally,
covering double
isn't
tap.
important,
Okay,
but
cool.
in this case, it actually shows there is a progression of disease, which we still need to know when we discuss the pathophysiology. So, here we go. I'm warning you. Put a helmet on. We start off with the movie actually acknowledging it's been about 3,000 years since the last movie. The infected have now begun evolving into different variants of infected. It appears that eventually the body would reach a form of homeostasis utilizing the prions, which, I mean, I suppose it should basically do as long as you're surviving, but this has had some beneficial and also some detrimental effects on the body. The first one is known as a homer. A homer is incredibly dumb. The brain appears to have been heavily affected by the infection to the point that it will make them largely unobservant as well as clumsy, indicating that likely there is an issue with the cerebellum controlling coordination of the limbs. The second variant is known as the Hawking. This particular type of infected appears to have arisen from someone who was already quite intelligent in their uninfected life and managed to retain some of that intellectual integrity.
Oh my.
While not overly strong, they can problem solve to near human levels, meaning more planning would be needed to be involved in dealing with these particular infected. The third variant is a much more dangerous form than the others, affectionately known as the ninja. They choose to stalk the uninfected rather than just outright confronting them in the open. This has led to people getting quickly overwhelmed in small spaces and either being infected or being eaten by the infected. Either way, not ideal. There is a fourth variant, but we aren't there yet, so moving on. We meet up with Columbus, Tallahassee, Little Rock, and Wichita, and more Metallica, because we didn't need anything else, of course. You can't hear it because Metallica has a history of destroying those who use their music through copyright, but the group is taking the White House at this point. Taking over the White House, everyone just continues to sort of age, as the slow, crushing reality of time passing sets in. Little Rock at this point is attempting to find a dude, and yeah, that's the basis of the whole movie. Every morning, it's Christmas morning, and now that they're safe in this safe area, Tallahassee gives Little Rock a force multiplier from the King, also known as Elvis Presley, which I have an interesting fact about that. First, I went to school with Elvis's grandniece, I believe it was, and second, since I live in that area that I do, I actually ended up almost buying their house when they were selling it back at the tail end of 2021. It's actually a really small world out there. So, later on, Columbus and Wichita share a moment that then goes horribly wrong. That old Papa Roanoke is going to give you some advice. If you ask a woman to marry you and she says no, like 95% of the time, it's time to head to the bar and then meet someone new, because it ain't likely to change. Anyways, Columbus gets blown out of the sky because there's no therapist to help people get past their hang-ups. And also, how is there still power here? Well, I do suppose it is White House, so maybe that's why. But as Columbus walks through, Tallahassee is standing there menacingly. He tells Columbus that he has bad news. Apparently, Wichita and Little Rock bailed again. Like, I get the first time, right? I mean, they didn't really know each other, and they had just met, but it's been like 10
This movie
years
is so
before.
fucking
It seems
lame.
a little odd to be bailing out right now. And worst of all, they took the beast. So we jump over to Wichita, talking about how annoying having a boyfriend is, and then they come up on a hippie standing in the middle of the road. Fast forward a few weeks, and Columbus is taking it pretty hard. As they go through the mall on Segways, they then just start taking out infected, as Columbus then heads to the candle shop because Zombieland smells terrible. As he does, a random woman just shows up there, and that also looks like my other ex-girlfriend. I'll tell you, a whole lot of this movie is weirdly nostalgic. So then they hit it off and then go back to the White House, and there's nothing like a rebound. Tallahassee then at this point tells Columbus that the next day he's going to head out because he's salty about Little Rock leaving. Then as soon as they get to the other room, it's literally a college frat party in July. Great times. Tallahassee then hears something, so he and Columbus both go check it out. Heading into the garage, Wichita has come back. Apparently Little Rock has gone missing, so she came back for supplies. She mentions how they picked up a guy from Berkeley, and then Tallahassee is livid that she's dating a musician who's a pacifist as well. Agreed. I don't think you can be a pacifist in Zombieland. Wichita then literally nopes out from the cringe that was happening, which then gave Little Rock the chance to leave. So then Little Rock apparently also noped out because she's like totally in love, you guys. So 75% of the squad is back together now. Wichita then informs them that there's a new type of infected out there that's way stronger and more resilient than normal. So as they discuss that, old Candle Girl comes down and barges into the moment. But hey, Columbus was a free agent at this point, so can you really blame him or get that mad? The next morning, they then head out in the minivan as they need to take it to Graceland to get Little Rock back because apparently that's where she was headed. Truly, it feels like a friggin' soccer mom moment. And while they get ready to go, Madison then shows up and they leave all of her stuff behind, which will probably be important later. Jumping over to Little Rock and the musician whose literal name is Berkeley, which is hilarious, the rest of the crew then stops off to scoop up an RV, which will be way better traveling arrangements. Heading down off the bridge, they then approach the RV as Madison then goes to open the door, but an alarm goes off, alerting the infected in the area. Columbus climbs up, telling everyone where the infected are running from, quite effective at taking them down, as one then starts climbing up. It's a homer, though, so they ignore it, but then a Hawking has climbed up, and it basically gets got after jumping after Columbus. As they look out and see another one, they then open up on him, but the rounds don't seem to be doing much. They call it a T-800 as it keeps getting up. Stronger, deadlier, and harder to kill, which requires the non-upple tap, which, more than the double tap. It's actually 9 of them, and it actually brings it down finally. These require headshots to basically put it out of its misery. Heading into the RV, I'm required by law to tell you that gas in no way, shape, or form would be functional at this point. All the injectors would be clogged because as water and lighter hydrocarbons evaporate out of the fuel, it basically turns to varnish. With fuel stabilizers, you can get about 1.5 years of good fuel, but within typically about 6 months, fuel destabilizes. So, like, the densest part that's left over won't really burn, but it will definitely wreck your engine if you aren't careful. And I say that because one guy is going to tell me in the comments that he had fuel in his garage for 2 years and it totally still worked. Yeah, it's not like putting water in the gas tank, but it's horrible for your engine. If you're trying using 10-year-old fuel, let me know how that works. As they then take off with the magic fuel that immediately works for them, they then hit spikes that prevent theft as they head back to the minivan, meaning this whole thing was a waste of time. However, it did make them aware of the T-800s. So as the ride continues, Madison starts talking about Uber, but in this timeline, it doesn't make any sense. And as she talks, she burps and appears to be suffering from some sort of ailment. They pull over as they think she's infected. She starts throwing up as the group discusses who wants to take her out. And part of the group appears to be gleeful about that. Columbus then follows her into the woods as Madison takes off, but Columbus apparently puts her down and then heads back to the car. They then head out and continue their trek to Memphis. Later that night, they wake Tallahassee up as they pull up, but they don't see the Beast or Little Rock, and Graceland is just pretty much a destroyed house. They continue on as they found one place that's still up and running, and then spot the Beast parked out front. So Little Rock must be there. Tallahassee goes and puts on Elvis's shoes, or at least tries to, but they don't fit. However, they do fit Columbus very well. Tallahassee then sits down to play the piano, which again, this place has not been cleared. Seems like a bad idea to turn your back on anything. Wichita goes to try to find Little Rock. A woman named Nevada then shows up and smacks Tallahassee in the face, and this results in a standoff as Nevada tells them Little Rock ran off with Berkeley a few days ago, leaving the car behind. That's a really bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him. Nevada then goes on to say that she almost buried them. Nevada then goes on to say that Berkeley wouldn't shut up and said that they were headed to a place called Babylon, and as we see it, they're just leading a horde of infected there as well. Tallahassee and Nevada then hit it off pretty much immediately due to their mutual love of Elvis, of course, and Little Rock and Berkeley then hit
She is
Babylon.
so fun.
There are no force multipliers allowed here, which is a great idea because of all the infected everywhere. They actually melt them down and give them pendants instead. Bruh. Meanwhile, back at Graceland 2, Electric Boogaloo, a dude with a monster truck has arrived. They have a nice discussion about using Nevada's driveway, as we now see the similarities between the groups. Albuquerque and Flagstaff are essentially Tallahassee and Columbus. Rules and commandments. They say that they are headed out to the mountains, but then ran into what they call bolts out on the plains. These infected are much stronger and athletic, as they have to run down their prey and do not get as many chances at it. Hence the infected chasing the car back to Babylon. Group 1 calls them T-800s, as mentioned earlier, and they are pushing east as they are running out of food. As the group talks and drinks, there's a few T-800s that have followed them back. Albuquerque and Flagstaff then head out there to deal with the infected. As they appear to deal with them, they then head back inside and they spot a bite mark on Albuquerque's arm. As he says it's just a tattoo, nobody really believes him, and he begins turning right in front of them. He starts puking as Kirk then tells on Flagstaff that he was bit twice, and he starts throwing up too. He immediately changes as they are way stronger than normal. Interesting, as this denotes an actual strain of prion that requires you to be infected in this way, seeing as they are stronger than normal. Again, only brain shots appear to actually put them down. Dealing with these two, they now then head out to Babylon to go get Little Rock because the T-800s are heading towards them. Tallahassee goes to get the monster truck and immediately breaks the vehicle as both cars are ruined at this point. Once again, back to the trusty minivan of masculinity. As they drive along, they spot the circus vehicle from earlier, and Madison is alive once more. They pick her up as she tells them that she has a nut allergy, and she wasn't actually infected, and she actually had an EpiPen in her suitcase. As they drive, they discuss where they should actually go, and an island conversation kind of comes up, which is actually a good idea. Why not move to an island? The next morning, they finally arrive in Babylon. Tallahassee burns the boat by tossing a concussive force detonator into the minivan, as they then turn over their handhelds to gain entry. Finding a drum circle, literally, they find Little Rock as well as Berkeley. Madison wants to stay there, but the rest of the squad doesn't really fit in. So Little Rock returns to the drum circle like a huge hippie as Tallahassee begins to hear the call of the buffalo and wants to head out. Tallahassee then gets a truck and leaves on his own, but then runs into a T-800, like literally runs into it, and an entire pack of them as they're headed towards Babylon. He begins his drive back as the group then starts lighting fireworks. How they have survived this long is well beyond me. Tallahassee tells them to shut off the fireworks, but it's way too late for that. Little Rock then breaks up with Berkeley on the spot as they decide they need to somehow fight these things. The plan is to basically burn these things and block them in. The fireworks go off, saying that the infected are inbound as the plan officially starts. So this kind of goes the same way as Pacific Playland, except there's no force multipliers. Instead, it's just some good old-fashioned hand-to-hand combat. Before they are horribly mangled, however, Nevada then shows up with a monster truck to rescue them because they got backed into a corner. What timing! However, ultimately, they end up flipping it and then heading back to the hippie compound. As they finally get the hippies to do something with impeccable aim, they start throwing stuff. Running up the staircase, it's my worst nightmare, climbing several stories being chased. As they run through, the infected then continue their chase, and they're able to funnel them off of the building as they start chasing Tallahassee. Catching a hook, he's able to survive. Not a good time. Little Rock is able to dome one of the infected before it's able to pull Tallahassee to his doom, so he ends up surviving. Wichita now tells Columbus that she will marry him, so think of Madison like a bachelor party as she nopes out of there, and I imagine then just hangs out with Berkeley. Tallahassee then hooks up with Nevada, and everyone but Little Rock actually gets someone. Woof. And then a Homer shows up and falls off the edge. The squad then head home, wherever that may be. And that concludes Double Tap. Didn't feel like it went anywhere? Well, you're right. Also, at the very ending, Al Roker is apparently infected as Bill then takes him out with a chair, and the infection has officially started.
I hate Mondays.
That was a lot of summarizing. So, I think the first thing that we need to cover is the actual disease itself that appears to be
I'll be honest, I checked out
how this would ultimately affect
about a quarter of the way into Double Tap because I just...
and then get into like the preservation of intelligence seen in some individuals versus the complete degradation down to almost a trance should something go across their field of view. The first thing to understand about this disease, prion specifically, is the implications of it are horrifying. Again, this was not a virus, but a variant of mad cow disease that was able to remain relatively undetected as it entered the food industry and then was disseminated into the food that we eat. Now, the only issue with this is the modern United States has rules and regulations in place that would prevent this from happening. You see, around 1986 in the United Kingdom, an outbreak of mad cow disease, or bovine spongiform encephalopathy, would break through into the food industry as tainted meat was consumed by many people. The ultimate result of this outbreak was a 100% mortality rate, destroying brains due to encephalopathy, and a question on most medical documentation asking if you've ever been to the United Kingdom during this time frame. The reason that prion disease was allowed to propagate is because at the time the cows were being fed ground up cows. Over time, one single genetic disorder induced by mutation specifically on chromosome 20, well at least in humans anyways, on cows it's a different chromosome, but this usually isn't a problem because a lot of animals are not regularly engaging in cannibalism. Like if you have a chromosomal mutation that will cause you to develop prion disease, typically nobody's eating you, so it doesn't get passed along, but it can be passed along basically through sperm or egg, depending on where you got it from in your parent. But it doesn't matter. The point is that as long as nobody eats you, that prion disease will not be passed along. but if you do reproduce, it may be passed along as a mutation. But to beef up
Wow.
nutrition, literally cows and cow parts would be ground up and fed to other cows, which allowed for this gene mutation to be propagated in other bovines, which led to a larger scale outbreak. Now, when I say gene mutation, I don't mean that the cow eating the other cow's genes were changed, but the mutations brought on by the genes of the cow being eaten were then propagated because the prions got into that cow's brain. But this would, again, lead to a larger scale outbreak. Now, the reason this does not happen in the United States and would not take place under the same circumstances is because back in 1997, we banned cows being fed to other cows. Now, farmers could technically still be doing that. I mean, it's totally possible, but the more regulation and oversight, this has virtually eliminated the chance of a similar outbreak.
And this is why we
in
have
our fast food
regulation and
here.
oversight.
Factor's looking better and better, isn't it? It's all open and shut, isn't it? Well, not exactly. In fact, there is something new to fear that seems to have fallen out of limelight as of late, but Papa Roanoke is here to remind you that the planet we live on is both beautiful and horrifying at the same time. There is currently a form of this disease that has been spreading from the west for like quite some time, and measures to stop it had to be put into place to make sure it doesn't become too much of a problem. However, it is becoming a problem, so strap in. Chronic wasting disease, or CWD, is a form of prion disease that is associated with wild deer populations out near the Rockies. It appears to be spreading as well. Now, we have hunters out there that are taking out deer that look like they're acting strange, but how can they be everywhere at once? That's right, they can't. The problem isn't just so much these deer, but the remains of them that are also becoming something that is fairly alarming, and that's due to the prion durability itself, but we will get there momentarily. With CWD, the deer will become uncoordinated in their movements. They will wander listlessly and into human areas where typically they would be afraid of human activity. Now, I say typically because deer can be exposed to so many humans. That's really no longer an issue. I mean, where I live, it's a protected area, like there's no hunting, and we have so many deer that you can basically just walk up on them, they don't do anything. And I'll tell you what, if the apocalypse happens, I'm going to be eating venison for quite a while because all I got to do is just walk up to them. So anyways, moving on past that, the disturbing part is that wild deer, as in they haven't been around humans at all, are starting to show up in human areas with this disease. So the issue arises when these deer that can no longer recognize a threat like a bear or a car come into contact with either near something important like a farm. Because believe it or not, there are also like a lot of wide open fields with a lot of cows in these areas. As the deer succumbs to some sort of wound, if it happens to be in the enclosure of cows, this could prove to be disastrous once more for the meat industry. Now, let me stop here before getting too deep into this and say I'm still going to eat steak and burgers because both are delicious. And I'm not going to lie to you, something out there is going to kill us all. It's just how life works, and I'm not giving up meat. But should this deer drop, and with the current understanding that we have about CWD being that we don't really know if it can jump species or not, which is why hunters are warned not to eat their kills if the animal is acting strange, it's sort of an interesting problem, I guess you could say. Would CWD jump to cows? I mean, we have seen mad cow disease jump to humans, so it does seem completely possible, and they are warning that this.
I mean, that's the kind of thing that would force a sea change in the way we in the way we eat.
Okay, but
and
why
what
would
we
a cow
eat
actually eat around like a dead deer? Well, that's the horrible durability of the prion itself. They are incredibly difficult to destroy. One of the concerning things that we have found is that when you leave a prion out in the sun, nothing happens.
No
Like
shit.
if you put a bacteria in direct UV light, it can take it out. Viruses, same thing. It like deactivates them. But prions, they just sit there and they'll remain in the soil until plants from underneath grow, which then is carried upward, which then it can be eaten by a cow long after the deer carcass has been removed.
Holy
I'm talking
shit.
about like months here that a prion can just sit. And that's because prions are not alive. Think of it like an inanimate object, which let's discuss that for a moment now that the connection has been made as to how this mad cow disease could have skirted around regulations that we have in place currently. So the question on your mind at this point is like, all right, Roanoke, now that I'm sufficiently horrified about this disease, what is it? Well, you know Papa Roanoke ain't gonna let you down. The first thing is you really shouldn't concern yourself with worrying about it. I know in the face of what I just said that seems a little strange, but despite it having a 100% lethality rate, the reality is a prion disease is exceedingly rare. The point is that if you have like somehow contracted it or developed it through genetic mutations, it kind of seems like there was a target on your back already because you're talking about like a 1 in a million chance of coming into contact with this disease at all, and then it actually getting a foothold in your body, further lowering those odds. But the general vector is going to be infected meat, which is heavily scrutinized in today's society with a massive amount of regulations preventing it. The prion disease itself, as mentioned, has no cure, no treatments to ease the effects, and no way to save you once it begins, and it's because of how deceptively simple the infection is. The prion itself is nothing more than a misfolded protein. The protein is so stable that things like proteases cannot break it down, which is essentially an enzyme whose whole job is to literally break down proteins. Exposure to air will not denature it, alcohol does not change its folding, and even an autoclave that literally gets up to 250 degrees, or I think it's like 121 degrees Celsius, for 30 to 60 minutes and uses steam pressure to basically denature and destroy bacteria, viruses, parasites. Even that cannot destroy a prion.
Wow.
The shape that it has is incredibly durable, but it gets worse because obviously it's not alive, so how does it replicate? Again, it's about as bad as you think because it involves you and basically a conversion of you. In the brain are delicate cells known as neurons. Mind-blowing, I know, right? But on these neurons exist naturally occurring prions that are folded to the correct shape. Now, typically they participate in several biological processes such as neurogenesis, neuronal homeostasis, cell signaling, cell adhesion, and also engage in a protective role when it comes to stress. And that part is going to be very important later. So they carry out these functions quite effectively, so you could think of them as almost like companion proteins to the neurons. When coming into contact with a foreign prion that has been affected by the misfolding process, there are generally two accepted hypotheses that explain what happens during this process. The first process is that the foreign prions come into contact with the normal prions themselves, which causes them to denature and then fold into the new protein structure. Upon doing so, the body can no longer break down their structuring, which then leads to the newly formed prions to go to the next prion and then change its shape as a runaway effect begins. They also tend to clump together at this point, which then can choke out neurons and shorten the dendritic spines and then put pressure on the neurons, which also will end up killing them. The other possibility is that these misfolded proteins come into contact with the proteases responsible for folding the normal prions, and it essentially breaks this mechanism, forcing it to take on the shape of the misfolded protein and that it has, which will then go around altering the normal prions into this detrimental variant. Either way, proteins being the basis for cells and conducting many day-to-day activities in the body, this being altered will have some pretty profound effects further up the chain. As the prions continue to build up in the brain, this would begin to cause the brain to develop visible holes of missing neuronal tissue as those cells are being killed off. And at this point, the person would begin to devolve in cognitive ability with no way to slow it down. Essentially, what is happening is a traumatic brain injury induced by these rogue proteins. Within roughly 6 to 12 months after this encephalopathy begins, it is usually fatal due to the brain swelling associated with the infection, as well as degradation of the connections, which can begin hitting critical areas. Because if you get prions in your brainstem, it's lights out, bro. But this is a horror biology channel, so you know it's worse than that. Prions aren't always as fast-acting as everyone thinks. Some have been known to lurk quietly in the brain for up to 30 years before symptoms of this disease finally make an appearance. And after that, the person expires, or if it's an animal, the prions can remain viable for several years in the open air, exposed to sunlight, because animals don't bury their actual dead. So now we have a firm understanding of how horrible prions actually are, but how does this explain the infected that we have seen? Well, to answer that, the concept we need to operate off of is adaptation. The infected are by no means expired and are still alive in there, just severely altered. Because of that, this would mean they are absolutely going to play by the same rules the rest of us have to survive. The lucky, smart, and fast survive. The dumb, slow, and unlucky will succumb and shuffle off their mortal coil, which is really more of a blessing than a curse at that point. The second concept we have to go with is that the disease will affect people differently, and given prions' ability to lie in wait for several decades before manifesting and any visible symptoms, shows that there may be a variance amongst the infected, either due to their naturally occurring body or the prion itself. I'm inclined to believe it's the prion itself due to the T800s passing along their durability. So starting with the Homer first, to me, this is clearly an example of someone, while maybe not lucky in their uninfected life because they got infected, they may have been lucky in their infected life relative to their condition. A Homer probably is not from a city and may have been from the suburbs mainly. Their infection led to spongification of the brain to the point that it became essentially a severe mental disability. The prion infection itself does not cause a person to want to eat another person, but instead would cause their brain to swell, altering behavior, and likely leading back to the need to consume anything, and with people running around, well, eventually they would take a bite. The Homer, being in a suburban area, likely had to contend with less population density and chaos as the infection continued to ransack his brain. His cerebrum would likely be heavily affected, specifically the frontal lobe and hypothalamus area, leading to what we see. Someone who cannot really think, plan, or possibly even really feel hungry, which has apparently subdued their hunter instincts, or specifically survival instincts, which has led them to sort of wander and get sidetracked easily, leading to survivors not really being scared about them. The opposite of this is the hawking. The hawking shows that potentially there is a combination of what form of prion you're infected with is important, along with how the brain operated. This may imply that the dense connections of the cerebrum to begin with may have an impact on how the prions affect them. The hawking is someone who was highly intelligent to begin with, and after their infection, they could retain some of this intelligence. Now, it's also possible this variant was just newly infected, and as a result, the brain hadn't really been subdued as quickly, allowing them to still think, which we will get into how the prions cause the symptoms here in a moment, but it's possible that the brain has also been infected for quite some time, just to point that out, but specific areas with planning, again, the frontal lobe, have been spared to a degree. But some certain portions, because of emotional balance, memories, and control of oneself, those would have to be destroyed because they're situated in the same lobe, and if they were fully intact, then it's likely this person would not be so keen on eating another person. But no matter what the process is, it appears the prions will spare some of the brain tissue, and because of the more densely connected brain tissue leading to a more intelligent person in their uninfected life, it may be that the prions have a harder time moving as effectively in this area. But regardless, the outcome is the same. While somewhat diminished, intellect was above normal for an infected and well beyond that of a Homer. The third variant is a ninja. Ninjas likely developed in cities or communities that were deep within the woods. Essentially, these would be the ones that survive by not making a lot of sound and staying out of sight and being ambush predators. And with all these variants, it shows that there still is a bit of a human element within them. Humans being persistent.
Yeah, there's still somewhere in there a little bit.
To run prey towards them, where they would then ambush the prey and take it out. This has persisted into this variant, who will still stick to the shadows and out of sight before launching their ambush attack. This would involve a very old portion of the brain concerning hunting techniques and survival, which is basically called the lizard brain. It's just the oldest portion of the brain. There's been discussion about if the lizard, mammalian, primate brain is really a thing. I believe what they're trying to say with that is there's older portions of your brains, like the pons, the medulla, and the brainstem, and then there's newer portions of the brain, which is the cerebrum, because that was the last to really grow on humans. So just take that with a grain of salt. But it seems that those who are infected in this process, the frontal lobe is spared somewhat as well, though there's clearly damage to it. But unlike many others who have ungainly movement that seems disjointed, even
they retained all of their...
They have been completely spared in the ninjas, allowing them to be fast and agile when taking down non-infected. And the last version, that is an incredibly recent occurrence, are known as the T-800s. These type of infected are different for an extremely likely scenario that the environment played a huge role, as well as the prions themselves and the human body's ability to heal, kind of, being an after effect. But let's start with the environment first and work our way through. The T-800s come from the plains of the United States near the Rockies. Now, I don't know if you've been out there before, but it's basically going to open them up to nowhere to hide and vast distances to cover if they want to eat. Because remember, these infected are still alive, and as a result, they need incoming energy in order to survive.
Yeah, they need
and
food.
likely still do feel hunger. As many would be picked off from hundreds of yards away, this in turn would leave the most intelligent that knew how to duck or the most durable. Over time, this would create a variant that, due to its environment, would be highly athletic, as their bodies would be sculpted by running around the plains. And only those who were smart enough to move around quickly or duck would be left, meaning that those would be the methods that they would employ later to stay alive. As the years continue to pass, another factor would come into play that likely impacts all variants that have begun to change. When the prion disease didn't outright spongify their brains, this allowed for the brain to undergo a somewhat adaptive repair process. Known as neuroplasticity, this is essentially the process of forming new connections in the brain and remapping older areas to take on new traits, as well as undergoing neurogenesis. This process is incredibly slow.
Yeah, so it's like that story about the one dude that got a fucking a rail spike through his fucking brain or whatever, like went like diagonal through his brain or some shit like that. Something Gage, I think. Jacob Gage or something. But like his personality and everything changed afterwards. But like he was still able to function and everything. He was just like, yeah, like everything was different because his brain had to rework itself to function in its new state. It was crazy what our brain can do.
But if it takes place over enough time, this can potentially lead to things like spontaneous recovery of lost functions due to brain damage, although complete recovery from brain damage should be noted to be exceedingly rare. One of the important things to note about this process is that the prions, as mentioned earlier, help facilitate neurogenesis to some degree. I believe once infected with this new prion, those that do not get outright bodied have their bodies adapt to the new prions to a degree, and the standard processes continue on after a couple of years. This could explain why, at first, all the infected are the same. They have the same intellect, same movement, and same goals. But as time passes and their bodies adapt to this new disease, or don't adapt, outliers begin to form until this results in a new variant in general, which then can lead to the T-800s. But how does this explain their physical ability? I mean, they could take a shot to the dome, body wherever, and then just keep coming as long as they can move. Well, it appears that, as mentioned, with the prions working to alter the brain and the brain subsequently adapting to the infection,
Pain receptors probably
prions
do.
may influence the speed at which neuroplasticity takes place. Prions facilitating this process and those being affected may help to explain this given the metric of how quickly the brain itself is overtaken when initially infected. When Albuquerque and Flagstaff are infected, we see that just within a few minutes after the bite, the prions had traveled up to the brain and began altering by putting pressure on the brain and then basically making the initial infected form. Because you can also be bitten and infected, this would imply most of the body itself may be actually affected by the prion disease, or at minimum, the salivary glands are actually producing these prions, or the prions are going through them. Either way, this process is incredibly fast, and it's unsurprising that it would have taken over the planet, but it gives us a clue as to why the T-800s are so powerful. After the prions move to the brain and minutes pass, some of the brain is destroyed and some of it is spared. Given enough time, Flagstaff would have likely evolved into a Hawking, and Albuquerque would have probably turned into a ninja due to his survival and fighting ability. However, because being bitten by the T-800s themselves, it also appears that they're more durable than normal, as well, indicating that this line of prions arose from different circumstances. You know, like natural adaptation and it being the most successful in its environment. It's all related to biology.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, anyways. Nerding out aside, the T-800s seem to have more influence in not just the central nervous system, but the peripheral nervous system as well. And as such, the motor neurons and sensory neurons, though it hasn't really been seen with the sensory neurons. But the motor neurons, this is what gives them the durability, and it's related to the altered prions being more stable than normal prions, and this may somehow stabilize motor neurons as well from things like physical damage. So a piece of lead flying through the body would typically cause a compressional wave through said body that would rip apart neural connections, rendering a limb or even an entire portion of the body useless, as the body had its link severed to that area. Prions seem to almost bolster this connection, meaning the only way to actually stop it is to destroy the brain entirely or hit the nerve directly. This is what we see in the RV area when the infected takes several rounds, and as long as the spine was still connected, it will continue to move until the blurred out brain then gets decimated. This reinforcement of neurons would take quite a bit of time and may operate in the form of a prion sheath. Because remember, prions typically reside outside of the neuron and are limited in numbers though. But when this new prion circulates around, it may be that it recruits other protein structures or in general forces the body to overproduce these new prions. Once this happens, the neuron is then potentially coated in a protective protein layer of these things that may even work to encase the synaptic gap between neurons to further increase the strength of the system overall. This could also be because as they eat others, other natural prions are then ingested and potentially utilized as well, though it's kind of unlikely, but you can get prion disease from eating tainted meat. So if you eat another individual who has prions, potentially you could take those as well. But again, this is a little more far-fetched. So essentially with the T-800s, it becomes less about shocking the body and letting them bleed out like you can do with most of the other infected, and it becomes more about destroying a bolstered nervous system to put it down quickly, as even with severe damage, the infected can stay alive for an extended period of time, which would ultimately lead to your infection as well. The prion is a horrifying protein disease that as a species we don't really understand all too well at this point. But what we do know about it is that if it were to get out of hand, it likely wouldn't result in zombies in really any capacity, but a lot of graveyards being filled up. In Zombieland, however, these infected would adapt to the disease over the years to become stronger than they once were, indicating that not only does the disease itself not have a 100% mortality rate, but actually just has a 100% infectivity rate, but the body can also contend somewhat. And this may imply that given another 10 years, the body may further recover, depending on the age of the infected, and that those infected can actually still reproduce, because there's nothing that says that they're not actually still fertile. So would the prions actually be passed down to the infected? Would they be somewhat human, like in the movie The Girl with All the Gifts, which I actually did a video over that if you want to see it. It's not really known, but for now, we won't know until we get the third installment of Zombieland that is probably coming out in 2029 or something, which alarmingly isn't really that far off.
Fuck, man. Don't say that. Damn it. All right. So it's nearing on 4 a.m. Well, it's about 3:30. So probably skipping a game portion tonight. But tomorrow tomorrow night I will be doing the last of the well, not the last. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4, I think 5 bunkers left. I think there's 5 bunkers left that I haven't done. There's definitely 1, 2. There's 2 in the middle that I haven't done, and then I think there's maybe it's only 4 bunkers left, but I think it's 5. I may have done one of those already, so safe to say we probably got like 4 bunkers to do, and I don't have to be to work until 3 on Thursday, so we can do those tomorrow night. But I don't think I'm going to have time to do anything tomorrow before I go to work, because I'm going to see if Miss Ashante wants to hang out for a minute and chill before I go into work. At the very least, I can see how she's doing, because I haven't seen her. I haven't really been able to see her for a while, and she's been busy with work. So, if you're watching, Miss Ashante, again, I hope you're having a good day at work, or at least you're getting through it without too much difficulty. But that being said, we do have about a half an hour. Come on. Here we go. All right. So let's see if there's anything else interesting we can look at. I did do a stream last night, but it was on YouTube, not Twitch. I was just playing around and seeing if I could do it, pressing buttons. So you can check that on my main channel on YouTube if you would like. There was some good stuff on that. Y'all heard about Wizards of the Coast sending the Pinkertons after a YouTuber that got he mistakenly got a set from Wizards of the Coast that wasn't supposed to be released yet, but everybody had received that particular item through proper channels, and it was really Wizards of the Coast's fault for releasing the wrong item. But they sent the Pinkertons after that motherfucker. Man. And, okay, so let me turn some music going. I remember way back in the day when Wizard Magazine used to be a thing where if you had comic books, that was the place to check prices on said comic books, whatever comic books. You could look, everything in existence you could look up. It was crazy cool. And at some point they got bought out by Wizards of the Coast, or something to that effect. But Wizards of the Coast became a thing, and they started being more of a thing with Magic the Gathering and all that stuff. But I never liked them. Like ever since they started, like ever since they changed Wizard Magazine, I didn't like them. Yeah, they're bad news. And what they're doing with Dungeons and Dragons or tried to do, and all their bullshit. Fuck Wizards of the Coast. Meh. The bread that broke the peace. Simon Whistler. I watch a bunch of his stuff. I have to back off of him sometimes because his sometimes I don't know, the way he speaks sometimes it gets a little ponderous after listening to it for a while. Still love him though. Did everybody catch the Muggers 10-hour loop from Viva La Dirt League? Awesomeness. Ukraine is definitely has started their spring offensive. Glory to Ukraine. Hope you guys do well. Do it up, boys. It, the Terror from Beyond Space. It's free on YouTube Premium. Posthumans. I remember when this came out a while, like way back. When they were talking about what humans might look like further down the evolutionary line. We've always wondered how Wolverine's claws actually work, like if in a real anatomy sense. Ooh, War of the Worlds new Alien gameplay. It looks better than the last time I saw it. So let's check that out real quick. By our friend Enfant Terrible. hopefully somebody wishes to say hi. So where are the ones that are trying to scoop you up, or is that with all of them? Wow. I mean, it still looks fairly fucking pedestrian right now. Like it's. I would assume this is still like alpha footage. Rope, Molotov cocktail, frag grenade, crossbow arrow. So what are you like? So I mean, what are you using crossbow arrows against and frag grenades against? And Molotov cocktails against other people, or they're smaller aliens that you can actually fight. That does add a certain element of terror to it. Like you have no idea. Like you be searching around a house and all of a sudden, oh shit. Yeah, that thing that searches the house. Oh, it is coming down the stairs. Is it gonna come into the room? Oh. Good to know that human weapons are at least somewhat effective. So are there weapons that can take down those things, or are those things just those things that you just have to run from? Oh my. Oh, did he get marked? That's pretty cool looking. It's so spacey! Yeah, all those lightning strikes. I remember, wasn't there a War of the Worlds TV show back in the day? That shit was really good. Yeah, there's the cages for people they capture. So what are you gonna do, sir? Yeah, don't they clone you? And they had hybrids, and they were trying to infiltrate the resistance. All kinds of shit. Does make me want to play Sons of the Forest again. I got to get back into that game. It's actually a game I got to play again, because they've added a lot of stuff to it since I've been gone. Yeah, this is pre-alpha gameplay. I don't know what you're looking at, buddy. Oh, what was that? Wait. Was that from a player, or is that a scene from? Is that a? Is that like just a video? Like, is that a scripted scene? Oh no, it was a tank. Okay. Or was that a helicopter? And they're showing death animations for I mean, that is the upside to, well, we'd have to survive first, but like winning an invasion, like if like we had an alien invasion and we happened to win, all that recovered tech that we could take advantage of. Although it might just draw whoever else is out there towards us faster. So yeah, I'm interested to see where it goes with War of the Worlds. Looks interesting, but yeah, it's about shit. We've still got a little bit of time. Trying to kick it out to 4 a.m. And we can go and look at this is the vending machine I was telling you about.
Are we waiting for something, or did you just forget to grab the test item?
I did grab it.
Well, where is it?
It's right there.
Oh. Okay. Well, let's see.
Oh my. Yeah. 1,500 yen. D class. Orange jumpsuit.
Oh, hey. I love oranges.
Not sure what. I mean, it says it was citrus paste. Not sure what it ended up doing. It probably killed him, but you know.
I'll call a team over to get him to the infirmary.
Hold on, no, hold on. Do you really want to go through all of that paperwork? Because I sure as hell don't.
Well, I now it's sure, but there's a procedure.
It's a shame how the paste made that subject's teeth all fall out. Right? A real shame.
God damn, that is definitely something for the ethics committee to.
Barbershop quartet.
Now vending chocolate milk. Oh, so there is a difference. Like so, when you put money in and get something from the vending machine while it's powered, you'll get something like a sort of normal item. But if you give it money and ask for an item while it's unpowered, it will give you weird things. This is apparently powered this time. 700 yen. Ha!
At 2, boob.
Chocolate. We're going to get that tested first.
Yeah.
It's chocolate milk, all right. Human chocolate milk.
Boob milk.
Huh. Put that down.
Green gelatin. Oh. The vibrator. We'll have to look at that one.
Holy shit!
That was frightening. Maybe the gelatin is afraid you're going to eat it. They don't seem to be taking any chances with the unpowered state. 500 yen. Most of the items are strange, mostly harmless. Some of them are not. Some of them are just... Huh? Yeah. Huh? See, that would be a really fun, actual, real item.
In order to gain greater understanding of 297's effect on organic material, we will conduct the following tests on 2 bananas. Diana, will you please hand me the SCP? With 4 variable settings, we will begin our tests on level 1 load. No noticeable effect. Moving on to level 2 medium. On this level, vibration from 297 is capable of displacing small objects. Continuing on to setting number 3, high.
Ha
297's tertiary setting has yielded some unfortunate results. The test material began vibrating intensely and then ruptured, sending chunks flying. I suspect that 297 matched the resonance frequency of the banana, but without a finer tuned testing apparatus, that remains an educated guess. with a fourth setting of suicide. I have determined that testing shall be terminated until such an apparatus is available.
Is it necessary for us to stop testing for today? Your input can still be useful.
I pride myself in maintaining thorough and safe testing procedures. You'd do well to exercise those same standards when you begin to conduct your own tests. Now, as soon as you sterilize 297, call custodial services. Meet me in my office.
I'll be right on that.
Oh my. Sweetheart? Lovely. Okay. And one more for the before I end the night. Let's do critical tomatoes. Um,
You're not gonna throw that at me, are you?
Read.
it's so fucked up.
Why don't scientists trust atoms? Because they make up everything. Okay. What do you call a man with no arms or legs in a pool? Bob. Oh! How did... I didn't actually think you'd throw it.
Just keep reading the jokes.
Two bacteria walk into a bar. The bartender says, "We don't serve bacteria here." One bacteria says, "What do you mean? We work here. We're staff." Oh! How are you doing that?
I'm not doing it. They are.
So what exactly are you learning from this? How do you track down Will Smith? You look for the Fresh Prince. Okay, yeah, I'm done.
Is that really necessary?
What do you call a cow with no legs? Ground beef. Oh. What do you call a magical owl? Houdini. What do you call a blonde woman who puts on a wig? Artificial intelligence. Oh. What do you call a chicken looking at lettuce? Chicken sees a salad.
Oh. Damn, dude.
What's the difference between being hungry and horny? Where do you put the cucumber? I owe a lot to sidewalks. They've been keeping me off the streets for years.
Ooh. They SCP D-class are treated very fucking poorly in the SCP universe.
One vowel saves another vowel's life. The other vowel says, hey, I owe you. A man from Iraq gets his daughter a new bag. She replies, thanks for the bag, Dad.
Soche.
I think they clocked one of the tomatoes at like Mach 4.
You know, the tomatoes react to CD players too. Right?
Fucking monsters.
Big brother, this is Echo Romeo.
All right. Maybe tomorrow night. It's like 23 minutes, and I've not seen this one. But not tonight. Oh, sorry, guys. I was talking to. Sorry. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. I appreciate it. You guys have a great week. I will see you tomorrow night. We have some business to tend to in facility 3826. Yeah, so we'll do that tomorrow. Thank you very much. You guys have a great day. Yeah, sorry about that. You guys have a great day. Be safe, be happy, be healthy. I love you guys. And I'll see you in the next one. Have a good night. Or morning/day.